Hello and welcome back to the channel. A few months ago, I made a video about the DJI Osmo Pocket, and unfortunately, right after I purchased this, DJI came out with the Osmo Action, which has kind of been my go-to camera. When I'm taking a camera with me, that's probably the one, just because it's very tough, it's waterproof, it does excellent quality video with great stabilization, 4K, so it kind of filled the niche that this was filling for me. The goal for this thing, though, is it's supposed to be able to do amazing cinematic quality, ultra-stabilized footage. Potentially even better quality stabilized footage than the Osmo Action. But when you're outdoors, when you're in bright sunlight, this on its own, it ain't gonna do it. Which is why when the folks from Freewell reached out to me, unfortunately, entirely too long ago, and offered to send out some filters for the Osmo Pocket, I absolutely said yes. So here in front of me, you can see them. We have the Osmo Pocket 4K all-day filter 8-pack. Here's a list of all the filters that are included for cloudy days, partly cloudy normal. More specifically, ND 4, 8, 16, CPL, circular polarizer, and then ND 8, 16, 32, and 64, all with polarization as well. Then these two, they don't really have any sort of markings on them or anything. But on the back, this one says it's a Freewell ND 1000 long exposure filter, and this is the Freewell light pollution filter. So these are a little bit more specialized. The ND 1000 is really for, I'm gonna go outside and take a 2-second exposure. Again, more on the photo side, which is not really my forte for the moment. I need to get more into it. But as an example, I could take it out to a stream or a river and set the camera up for like a second or two. And with this kind of filter on it, I would be able to capture and have this buttery, smooth looking motion, everything smoothed out, looking really pretty. I've done that before. It's been a few years. I might try to do that for this video. But these are going to be insanely helpful because the aperture on this is not adjustable. You're going to be stuck with really high shutter speeds, which means that all the motion is going to be very jerky and very stuttery. This will help smooth that out. Let's dive in. So inside the box, this is the 4K series all-day pack. You can see that it has a solid plastic case. I just clipped my fingernail, so I don't have any fingernails to open this with. There we go. So inside of the case, there's a little cleaning cloth, and then the 8 filters. One of them popped out a minute ago. But top to bottom, left to right, you have the CPL, ND 16, ND 8, ND 4. So these are just going to be neutral density filters without any sort of polarization. I probably will not use these terribly often. And then ND 64, 32, 16, and 8 with the circular polarizer built in. You can see the red ring around the outside, hopefully. This one should be the light pollution filter, again in this plastic container that I can't open. There we go. And of course, even though I just did that, it popped out and went everywhere. So it's another of these 8-pack cases for one filter though. So I'll put that back in place. And then this third one, as you would expect, it's another plastic box that's going to be ridiculously hard to open. Aha, I figured it out. It has an arrow on it, but that doesn't really help. You kind of have to push in and then pull out on the top, which helps pop it open because it has this little lip it has to get over. But this one is the ND 1000. So what I'm very likely to do is take some of these out that I know I won't be using and replace them with like the ND 1000 and possibly this light pollution filter. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe off the lens of the Osmo Pocket here just for a quick demonstration. Here's how these work. Basically, you put it over the front of the lens, and it just magnetically clips in place like that. I've seen some other attachable ND filters and CPL filters like this, but they always seem to catch on this bottom section, and as you can see, this is not going to catch. So whenever I turn it on, it's able to adjust just fine, and now I'm able to move it around and film using it with the gimbal still being balanced and everything. One of the sort of minor downsides to this is if you wanted to make changes to it, it's a circular polarizer. If I wanted to make a change, I would have to actually reach up here and twist it around by hand, which I can see it is definitely doing something. Just as a point of reference, I've switched over to the Osmo Pocket here. I do have the circular polarizer on. You can see the TV that I'm using as a monitor. When I start twisting it, you can see the polarization take effect. So if you didn't want to see what was on a TV, you just twist the circular polarizer and it sort of goes away. That's pretty nice. But then you can also turn it right back. But I think the next thing to do is to take these outside, test them in daylight, see how the clouds look with the polarizing ones, see how good my shutter speeds can be. Because if you weren't aware, you can actually on the Osmo Pocket go into Pro mode, swipe down, swipe over until you see Pro, and then turn it on. And then it gives you a button in the top left corner. Tap on that button and you get white balance settings, volume settings, exposure settings. So if I click on exposure, you can see it's on auto right now, and I can have exposure compensation over here. But if I set it to manual, I get shutter speed, and I get ISO. And so I can set the shutter speed to double what my frame rate is. Right now I'm in 4K 30, and then hit OK. And that will allow me to have some more manual fine-grained controls and also get the video to a point where it looks more smooth. Let's take these outside and do some tests. So I'm outside in some very bright sunlight. I have the camera set to manual mode, and I am at 1/1250th of a second with auto ISO, but I think it's defaulting to ISO 100, which means that any sort of motion you can probably see is going to be very stuttery, very weird looking. Let's try on one of these and see if we can make it look a little bit better. There we go. I switched over to using the ND32PL, so it has circular polarizer on it. I am now at 1/60th of a second with ISO, it's either 100 or 200. I think it was 200 that it defaulted to, so I probably could have used a brighter one, ND16, something like that. But as you can probably see, the motion hopefully looks a little bit smoother, a little bit less sharp, a little less crisp, I suppose, a little more cinematic. And the cool thing about using the circular polarizer, you can probably see there's a lot of glass behind me. If I twist this, you can see the look of the glass will start to change. Hopefully. Really hard to tell looking at the small monitor, but hopefully the glass, the reflections and everything started to look a little different. But if I flip everything around, look up at the sky and give it a little bit of a twist, you can probably see the clouds start to pop whenever I move it around. I'm just continually spinning it around. Sorry for the shaking here. But this should definitely make for some much smoother, much better looking cinematic type footage. And just for a comparison, I'm now on the ND16 not polarized, so you might be able to see behind me a lot more glare, a lot more reflection. Shutter speed still 1/60th of a second. I'm at 4K 30, and the ISO again 100, so it should be a little bit closer to what it's supposed to look like. Everything still looks very bright and very hot. The sun is like directly overhead, so this is one of the worst possible scenarios for shooting this kind of video. But if I flip it around again and look up at the clouds, they probably don't pop quite as much as they were before, and there's nothing I can do about it because this is not a polarizing filter. And the ND1000 filter is not something that I can really demonstrate on video. Basically, whenever I put it in front of this lens, this is what happens. So it just goes very, very dark. However, there is this lovely water feature near the place that I work, and I was able to take it outside, and it was like a 1/2 second shutter speed, 100 ISO, very bright afternoon sun, but I was able to get these shots using that with this ND1000 filter. And unfortunately, or fortunately, the place that I live in, we are not anywhere near a city with bright city lights, which means that at night, it gets very, very dark outside. So the night, the clear light, the light pollution filter, isn't going to be all that useful for me, but I have seen a lot of good results out of it from other people. It basically adds kind of a purple tint to your photos or videos and significantly reduces the halo, the glare around light sources. So if I find myself in that scenario with this type of camera, I definitely will have it on hand. But otherwise, I'm going to put links to where you can find these down below. The 8-pack all-day filter kit is $130. The ND1000 and the light pollution filter are $20 a piece, so you can sort of pick and choose from that what you will. There are also smaller kits, and there's less expensive kits, some that don't have the polarizing filters if you don't need those. But if you're planning on using the Osmo Pocket, or really almost any other camera for making videos, having ND filters, having circular polarizing filters are definitely going to be worthwhile. And Freewell makes a large assortment of them for a bunch of different cameras, and they mentioned there might be more different types of these coming out very soon, so be on the lookout. There may be another video about some Freewell filters coming up in the sometime future. But that's going to wrap the video up for today. Again, links to where you can find this will be available down in the description. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up down below. Subscribe to the channel to get notified when new videos become available. And I'll see you again next time.